Welcome back. Here with another episode of Sip and Spill, where we sip on drinks while spilling the tea on dating and relationships. I'm your girl, B. And today's episode is all about ending friendships, but that are not toxic. So stay tuned because I'll be breaking down some realizations that I've had, as well as sharing some of the reasons you guys sent to me about why you should end a friendship even if it's a non-toxic relationship. So, stay tuned. I was listening to this podcast called The Mindset Mentor. Great podcast, by the way. And the podcast host had an episode called Fake Friends. And in that episode, he was basically talking about how sometimes we keep people around longer than they need to be, or we're around people who are not the best for us just because of our history or things of that nature. So during the episode, he said, pay attention to how your body reacts to different friends that you have. Because as much as our mind and our brain might tell us, hey, this person has been around for a while, this is your friend, and you feel a sense of loyalty to them, your body naturally has a reaction based off of sometimes the things that your mind does not want to express. So as he was describing this, ironically, someone had reached out to me who I would consider a friend of mine. And when they reached out, I immediately felt anxious. And it's crazy because I started really paying attention when she would reach out to me. I started thinking about how do I feel in general? If she calls me or she texts me or reaches out via social media or whatever it is, how does my body feel? And I always feel very anxious. I feel like my chest gets tight sometimes. I immediately feel drained at the idea of having to be around this person for too long. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's weird. And I also feel annoyed. And so I never acknowledged those feelings because I always threw them in the back burner because I've been friends with this person for so many years and they've been around for so many years that I feel like I convinced myself that it was worth continuing on. But then when I really thought about it and then I compared my bodily reaction to that friend compared to other friends in my life, I realized that the the people I'm closest to, I never feel this way about them. I don't feel anxious to talk to them. I don't feel annoyed when they reach out. I don't feel drained at the idea of having to spend time with them. I can just be myself. And I feel like if anything, they bring up my energy from where it already is, but I don't feel a negative experience mentally or physically when I'm around my really good friends. But with this particular friend I'm talking about, when she would reach out to me or when she would ask me to do something for her, I would just immediately just feel drained. I don't know what it is, but I would just feel drained, just completely all the energy was taken out of me, just drained. And my anxiety would go up and my chest would feel tight. And sometimes when she would ask me certain questions, I felt the need to explain myself or I would get nervous. It's the weirdest thing. And so when I really sat down and thought about it, I realized that I think the reason why I feel this way with this friendship is because this person has disappointed me so much in the past that now I think it's just a natural bodily reaction for me to feel this way. Recently, when I think about it, she hasn't really done anything that's really made me want to question our friendship recently. And honestly, I feel like she's actually a much better friend now than she has ever been to me before. But ironically, it's like she became a better friend to me when I feel like I started slowly backing off. And it wasn't even intentional that I was backing off. I think it just naturally started to happen. But when she started feeling that distance from me, I felt like she was gravitating more towards me and trying to pull me back in. Whereas because of how I was feeling, I was naturally pushing away without even realizing it. But anytime she would reach out to me to ask me to do something for her or come support her, I would do it instantly. I would say yes before I even thought about it. And then after I would say yes, I would always immediately have like a sense of almost regret, even though I don't regret supporting her in any way. I don't really regret anything, but it's this instant feeling of, oh, here we go with this again, or oh, I can't believe I'm agreeing to do this now, or like things of that nature. And I think it's also because when I think about when she asked me for certain things versus when my other friends ask me, I don't feel that with my other friends because I've always felt equally supported. Like the same way I support them, they support me. And if they don't know how to support me, they ask me, and I try to ask them if I don't know how to support them or if they haven't vocalized it. I don't feel unappreciated by my other friendships, and I never really have. And so if issues do come up, I'm more willing to talk it through with them and try to fix it because I know that they want what's best for me, and I know that they don't want to intentionally try to disappoint or hurt me because they've always gone above and beyond for me, and I've always gone above and beyond for them. So I just feel much more comfortable with them. But with her, I think because I overlooked a lot of the things that probably would have ended our relationship in the past, because I was convincing myself that this friendship was worth continuing to go through. I think one thing I definitely learned in therapy is that I don't like being disappointed. So I put myself in situations where people won't disappoint me. So an example is I'm willing to go out and support people who I may not even invite to come and support me just because I don't want to be disappointed when they don't show up for me. And I don't really give them the opportunity to show up for me because I don't want to be disappointed if they don't, if that makes sense. I know it sounds horrible, but I'm working through that with therapy. But my point being is that in the past with her specifically, I felt like time and time again, she disappointed me. And because of that, I stopped giving her the opportunity to support me or to show up for me because I subconsciously was still putting her in that box of disappointment. And that's not fair to either her or I, because now I can tell that she's trying to be a better friend, or, well, I can't tell if she's trying, but I feel that she's gravitating more to me. And it seems like she wants to be a better friend to me, but it's for me, sometimes it feels like it's a little too late. And it's odd because nothing has happened recently at all. We don't have a toxic relationship per se. I think the most toxic part of the relationship, I think, is how I feel about the situation. And because this is probably my first time, ironically, on on my podcast, but this is like my first time really coming to terms with this, that I don't think I want to continue on with making this friendship deeper, but at the same notion, I don't wish ill upon her. Like, I don't mind having access to her and her having access to me, but just on a more limited capacity. And I don't know how that works when you've had a friendship with somebody for so many years and somebody's so used to you always being there for them and always showing up for them and, you know, all of these things. And now you're like, now I have to, for me at least, I have to come to the realization that my body is telling me something based off of how I react when her name comes up. And my body is clearly not comfortable with that. And I think my peace of mind and paying more attention to how my body reacts to things is much more important than me trying to appease somebody who I don't feel tries to do the same for me, or I haven't allowed to have the opportunity to do the same for me because they've disappointed me so much in the past. And I try not to hold the past against somebody, but when something happens time and time again, I think it's just natural that you start feeling a certain way about certain things. And with that situation, it's like I have to blame myself because there were plenty of instances where that friendship probably should have ended. And I kept it going because that was like my comfort zone. And I just wanted to continue on that friendship regardless of how it made me feel, as long as she was happy. And for whatever reason, I felt the need to always please her. I mean, I was a people pleaser too at this time period, and I don't consider myself a people pleaser anymore. But during that time period, I wanted to please her so much that I completely ignored how she made me feel and was more concerned about how I made her feel, and always using excuses about her life and people disappointing her and people doing her wrong, that I felt the need to be that friend to show a different side or be a different version or whatever it was, just trying to show up the best way that I knew how. And I never felt like it was enough. And I finally have reached a point where I feel like she does appreciate me and she does appreciate and is grateful for my friendship, but now I don't really care as much. And so it's a very odd place to be in, and I don't really find a need to have this conversation with her because it's like, for what? Because like I was saying before with my other friendships, I'm perfectly okay with opening up to them. I'm perfectly okay with if I feel disappointed by them or unhappy with them, I feel like I have a safe space that I can talk to them about the issues I have with them, because I know that at the end of the day, me and whoever my good friend is, want the best for each other, and we want to make each other happy, and we'll always love each other and always show up and show out for each other. But with these other friendships, and I'm using this one person as an example, but she's one of many who I've recently had this realization of, where it's like I completely ignored how I felt in that friendship. So now I'm just trying to figure out, how do you end a friendship that's not toxic, but it's a healthier situation for you to end. And I think that it's okay to end a friendship without having like a big or toxic reason to do so, if it's affecting you mentally or how your body reacts. That podcast that I was listening to, when he was talking about paying attention to how your body reacts, everything he described is exactly how I felt when that friend's name would come up. Like, I would immediately feel anxious. I would immediately feel annoyed. I would immediately feel drained. And I never realized that until I listened to that podcast, that our bodies really do speak to us based off of how they react to certain situations that we don't even acknowledge ourselves, is how we truly feel about something. And I think it's very important to acknowledge how your body reacts to different people or reacts to different scenarios, because you yourself might not realize that you're completely ignoring what your body's trying to tell you. And your body doesn't always have to tell you something based off of like, oh, I'm hot, I'm cold, oh, that hurts or that feels good. Like, no, say somebody's name and see how your body reacts. I'm telling you, have somebody call you unexpectedly and see how your body reacts when that person's name pops up on your phone. Like, that was a very eye-opening experience for me, and I'm realizing that it's much more important for me to feel comfortable and safe in my friendships than it is for me to try to please somebody who I don't feel made me a priority the way that I made them if we're supposed to be friends. I don't feel like it's fair to me to try and pour myself into somebody else who is just willing to take, but not give. And I think friendships are a two-way street. And so, yeah, I think it's okay to end this friendship, even though there's no toxic reason for ending it. Like, it's not like I said, nothing has happened recently. I would say we've grown apart, but I don't really think it's necessarily that we've grown apart. Because I guess when I think about like my friendships who I've grown apart with, we are two complete different people. Like, I had friends who in high school I was best friends with, and now I don't even recognize them and they don't recognize me. And I don't mean in a physical sense, I mean in a mental space. Like, mentally, they are not who I thought they would grow to be, and I might not be who they thought I would grow to be. But that to me is more of a grow apart situation, whereas like this friendship, I don't feel like we grew apart because I think that we have the same similar values. We're both very ambitious. We both are, I don't know, we have like a lot of things still in common, and I still wish nothing but the best for her, and I'm pretty sure she does the same for me. And I still want to support her, but not in the capacity where where I felt like I was pouring my all into a friendship that was not reciprocated at all. Like, I'm okay with us being friendly and being friends per se, but just from a distance. Like, I think the friendship will just look different. But that's enough about me. Let's get into what you guys had to say about ending friendships. So I had posted in my IG story. If you don't already, make sure you follow me at iam.venice, VENIECE, across all social media. But this was specifically on Instagram this day. And I basically posted a poll or a question asking, what are reasons to end a friendship that are not toxic? So the first one I got says, they laugh at your pain and make you feel dumb. I'm sorry. I'm laughing at this because this was a jab at me. This was a friend who had recently opened up to me about some stupid decisions that he made. And I'm sorry, it was funny. He was just out here just not going about dating the way he should have, and was getting taken advantage of because he was telling people how much money he was making and flying them across the daggone country. So I'm sorry, did not mean to laugh at your pain, but like, come on now. Somebody else said, a so-called friend not respecting your relationship. Okay, I guess that's a good reason. It sounds toxic, but I guess I could see how in certain situations that may not be toxic, because your relationship is your relationship, and if they're your friend, they should respect it regardless of, their personal feelings towards that situation. But I don't know, that wasn't enough details for me to really determine like what they meant behind that. Another one says, if they won't stop being a bum and they don't want better for themselves. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that if the person is tearing you down along with their process. Because I think sometimes, I know for me, I've been in spaces where mentally, like, I was very depressed, I was very down, and I wasn't doing everything I could to improve myself the best way that I could, because I was fighting off mental demons that I had to deal with on my own. And I think during that period of time, I appreciated that my friends didn't judge me, but I also don't feel like I was projecting what I was going through onto them. Like, I always was still encouraging them to move forward and helping them as much as I could when I could to push forward in whatever capacity that was, whether it was career, whether it was personal, whatever it was, emotional, wherever they needed me. So I think that sometimes it's okay to provide a safe space and patience with your friends if they are not being as ambitious as they used to be, or that you are, working as hard as you are, because I think sometimes we can forget the human experience. Sometimes people are fighting through stuff that they don't talk about. And because of that, we look at them as like throwing their life away or not doing things, when in reality, they're trying their best to just get out of bed the next day. And I've been there. So I can definitely say, like, I didn't lose any friends during that period of time, and I really appreciate it. But, for this situation, maybe this person's situation wasn't as deep. I don't know. But I do think that it's important to surround yourself with people who are equally yoked with you. So if in this sense, this person is referring to somebody who, like, won't stop being a bum, and in the sense of like they don't see anything better for themselves, or they don't want to see anything better for themselves, then yeah, I think it's okay to end that friendship. And I think it's also like okay to provide space to somebody too until they figure it out. For me, when I go through things, I like to isolate myself because I don't want to project that negative energy onto anybody else. So I'm very self-aware in that sense, that I will literally isolate myself from everyone I love because I don't want to project what I'm going through onto other people. But I don't think most people are that self-aware. So I also think it's fair to step back at that point, because how people you care about are around you can definitely affect you. So the next one says, making excuses for not being consistent, like being too busy. I guess I don't see that as ending friendship worthy, but I also don't know to what extent. So how long has this been going on? Has this person's life changed? Like, are they, a new mom? Did they just get married? Like, because I know I've had friendships change a lot over the past 2 years, but it's because over the past 2 years, some of my closest friends have gone through their biggest life changes, whether it's marriage, engagement, they just had their first child, whatever it is. So they may be too busy and they may be inconsistent at this time, but I also understand that they're going through life changes that I'm not. I'm also going through my own life changes, but I'm not going through the life changes that they're going through. And so I don't understand what that feeling is. And I'm sure they don't understand necessarily what my feeling is, but I still try to provide as much patience as I can with those friendships, because they are navigating a new space that they've never been in. They've never experienced marriage before. They've never experienced having a child before. So things that they may have thought they had time for before, they realize that they don't, or their priorities are different. They may have had time to do this, but something else popped up with their husband or their child that has a higher priority over me. So yeah, I guess but again, this is me. So I try to be very understanding, but I also can see how that can be problematic in a friendship, where over time you may feel that your friend is not prioritizing your friendship anymore, or is like not doesn't value you as a friend anymore, and just writing you off as a coffee date basically is kind of what it sounds like, because they're saying making excuses for not being consistent, like being too busy. if that happens a lot, then yeah, I think that's fair to step back from the friendship. And, if the person comes back and apologizes or explains themselves, I think that's fair. Or if you're completely done, that's fair too. Like, your feelings are valid either way. Somebody else said a reason to end it is because it's one sided. Yeah, yeah, I think that's exactly what I was going through with the friendship I was talking about earlier. Is I felt like it was very one sided for a long period of time. Now I see that I feel like this friend of mine wants to be a better friend to me, but I don't feel interested anymore. And someone else said, listen to your intuition. If they seem jealous, inauthentic, negative, it comes out later. And that is very true. Everything in the dark comes out in the light. I believe that. And I think that when somebody is secretly jealous or disingenuine or things of that nature, your intuition will tell you and you should listen to it and just go with that. For some reason, if your intuition is telling you something about somebody, I feel like you should listen and don't allow anybody to tell you that you're wrong or you're reading it incorrectly or whatever the situation is. I truly believe that our bodies have a reaction to things that we try to convince ourselves are okay when our body is telling us that it's not. So, yeah, if you have a gut feeling about somebody, I think it's fair to follow it. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I think everyone has a right to their feelings. Your feelings are valid. You're human. So, yeah, follow your gut. But yeah, that's going to wrap up today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, please share this with a friend. I'll be dropping episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. So, woo-wee, y'all. It's a ride. But yeah, thank you so much. Until next time, deuces.